It is a beautiful winter's day. You can see the leaves of the marulas are gone and the cold, clear skies have started. This is Safari Live. Ready? Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live. You are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari. It looks like we are going to have a wonderful day today. It is nice and clear and bright and crisp and really not too cold this morning, so it seems perfect conditions to have a safari. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Sebastian, and well, we'll be with you for the first hour all on our own, so you're going to have to be very kind to us and ask us lots of questions on hashtag Safari Live to keep us busy and keep us chatting. After that, then we should hopefully maybe see Stef or Scotty, I think, on the sunrise safari from Kenya. So that's pretty much the plans for the morning. Now we're going to try and see if we can't find the Nkahuma Pride to start things off and see where they went last night and see whether their tracks are still around. I know some of you did hear them calling around 12 o'clock, so we're going to try and see if they're here. If nothing for them, then well, it's going to be to focus on the Royals. After yesterday's bumper leopard afternoon, we're going to try and see if we can't find those two little hooligans and see if they are not together somewhere and causing trouble and going about their business. Interestingly enough, when we found them yesterday, and this is a very sort of telling tale as to what's going on with Shongile and Hosana in terms of their time spent together and how it's starting to fray a little bit. Shongile was sitting at Treehouse Dam and actually Hosana arrived and she was petrified. She ran and then she went up onto a termite mound and just stared at him for a while and realized it was Hosana, but was still very wary of him and didn't go too close at all. And I think that whole relationship between the two is starting to fray quite heavily. It's probably because every time she kills something, if he's with her, he ends up taking it and eating it for herself. And she's also now very wary of all these other leopards that are around. We know we've had a heavy influence of Tundi and Tamba in this area recently, and there's also Shadow and Cub, and I think Shongile is now starting to learn that she can't be friends with everybody and that she needs to start kind of taking care of herself and being aware. And so she wasn't having any of this sitting next to Hosana at all, and that's when she then went up and a little bit further and onto the termite mound where you all saw her. So she's being a clever girl, and while it's sad to see the two of them not hanging around together and really not being that accepting of one another, it is very good survival technique and one that she's going to need to apply should she run into Tsandi or Shadow or even unknown males, is that she's going to have to try and just slink away and try and be sort of as undercover as possible for the next little bit until she bulks up and is able to then start challenging for a territory of her own. What I will say, and this is that little Shongile is no longer that little. She is starting to grow very quickly. The last time I saw her was over 2 months ago, so it's a long time since I last saw her, and yesterday she must be double the size of when I last saw her. She's really started to fill out quite a bit. She's gotten a much longer animal, and even it seems as though she's standing a lot taller. So really good to have seen her, and really good to see just how good a condition she's in. Really, she's looking fantastic. Now, I thought the Nkahuma Pride might come out here somewhere. This is an area that they like to hang around quite a bit. We left them yesterday afternoon over there, and we know that Mvula had his kill somewhere up on our left-hand side. So what I wanted to do is just come this way and see if maybe, just maybe, these lions had decided to move around. Now, I see some of their tracks here, but these look like from yesterday. I think let's go up onto the onto the cut line and just check straight sort of northwards in case they've crossed that way, and make sure that they haven't gone up towards Tambuti Dam. There's a dam right here that is the perfect place. In fact, actually it's a little bit to our east. That is a perfect place for them to go and drink and also to go and look for prey animals. So if they have a situation where they could potentially be buffalo, which is what they would be looking for, that's an area that they would go. So let's go and have a little look that side and see if they didn't maybe potentially head that way. No signs here so far, which is good news. Like I say, if there's no signs of them crossing northwards, it's going to be fantastic news for us, because it means that the Angama Pride will still be here, and the more time they spend with us, really the better it is, and the more time we're going to be able to sort of watch the ongoings of the Pride. And last year I know they were here quite a lot, and it was really fantastic to spend a lot of time with them. Now the important thing about driving around at this time is that it's a time of day where you'll find lions and leopards are starting to just slow down a little bit. So while they still will be moving, because it is cool enough and the sun hasn't quite risen, it's starting to get to that time. There we go. So they've crossed right here. So there's their tracks just on the right hand side here, Seb. I don't know if you can see them. It might be quite tough to show, but just over there you can see there's a whole bunch of tracks. So all of their footprints are in this area and are starting to come over the road and head in a northerly direction. I'm going to just make 100% sure by going along a little bit that they didn't come back. We know yesterday that these lions did exactly this. They went in and out and in and out. So I want to just quickly check, but in all likelihood I would imagine these lions have crossed over into Buffalo's Hook, and I don't think we're going to see them, but let's try anyway and go and have a little squiz down further to the east. The dam that I was talking about is not too far actually, and it's just on our sort of northern side here. No, nothing there. Now there's others that are getting mobile, and well, I'm pretty sure I should let them know what's going on and that the lion tracks have gone northwards. It's always important to communicate with the other guides out here, because ultimately they help us a lot with finding animals and for us to find animals for them. So it means we need to kind of communicate with everyone. Morning Aubrey, just tracks for the Angama Pride going north towards Tambuti Dam. Other than that, no updates as yet. So Alex, age 12. Hello Alex, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day. You want to know, and I hope I got this right, it broke up a little bit as it was said, so I was trying to concentrate on what the question was, but I think you said how much does a male lion's mane change in the winter, is that right? No?
How much does the land change?
How much does the land change? There we go. Okay, so the land itself is basically becomes very different just in terms of its color. So now you can see in the winter months the grasses are white and sort of tan khaki color. The leaves of the trees have all fallen down, and there will be the odd tree that will keep its leaves, but for the most part most of these trees will drop their leaves and will no longer have sort of any vegetation. The grass itself will be dry and the water will be less, so we'll drive around and we'll find lots of muddy wallows without water at all. Now in summer what happens is the rain comes, and that will mean that all the grass starts to turn a lush green color. All of these trees get thick big canopies of leaves, and you'll find water all over the place. So it's a very different look to it. Also in the summer there'll be flowers and there'll be lots of insects, and whereas now in the winter all of those unfortunately disappear. So it's a bit of a different sort of scenery that we see in the winter months. Right, well, I don't think our lions have come back at all. I was hoping they would have come back this way. It's just their tracks from yesterday that I can see. So I think what I'm going to do is probably turn around and go head towards past where Enula was, just to see if maybe he's up in the tree, and if not, then, well, we'll carry on down towards where the royals are. But I don't think the Angama Pride came back. If they had come back from that waterhole like they did yesterday, they would have cut back already by now. I'm pretty sure that they've gone a little bit further. But before we turn around, Seb, let's try see if we can't find a really nice view of what's about to come up over the eastern horizon. Maybe somewhere here, Seb?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got a beautiful sunrise that's about to take place, and it's just so interesting to see the difference between the sunrise now and the sunrise in the summer months. We're talking about the change in the landscape. Well, our sunrise changes too. So there you can see, look at that beautiful big orange orb that is starting to come up over the horizon. And I was saying that it changes. Now, when the summer months are here, the sun rises directly over the Buffelshoek cut line. So if you have to park on the Buffelshoek cut line, you'll get a situation where the sun rises directly over the road and straight to the east. Now that we've gone into winter, so we're getting kind of the sun moving and tracking more northwards towards sort of northern side of the road, and it actually rises quite far north. And we know that we've just had our shortest day. The winter solstice has just been around, and so that's why we're in a situation where that sun is so far north. It will now start tracking back again, back towards the cut line, which is really cool to see. So you can also see that a bit of a wind is generated this morning as well. Now, it wasn't windy at all earlier, and it's just starting to get going, which is not ideal. The wind is never the best thing to have. It kind of pushes a lot of the big animals like the elephants and the buffaloes into thick, dense areas to get out of it. And you'll often find the cats start rolling up in a ball, particularly if it's a clear morning like this and windy. It's not very pleasant for them to move around, and they'll just sort of curl up and try and sleep. So hopefully that wind doesn't get too powerful today. It's definitely not the best thing to have. But look how quickly that sun rises. Isn't that magnificent? I think it's worthy of a quiet moment just to listen to the dawn sounds as the sun comes up. And there we go. That's our sun pretty much over the horizon now. From there it's just onward and upward, and the colors are even going to start getting more muted. The red that we saw earlier is starting to fade a little bit, and it's becoming a lot more sort of a gold color, not as red as it was just now. But very, very special way to start the day. We are so fortunate in this part of the world to have beautiful sunrises and sunsets. Now, Wesley, you say what a fabulous sunrise. Indeed, Wesley, it was very, very good. It was very pretty. Now, earlier I was saying just now about where the sun was rising, so you can actually see the road. So the sun used to rise over there. That's exactly where it would come up, literally over the top of this road. And now you can see it is now rising over there. So that's the distance that the sun moves between our winter and summer months. In summer, that will all come back into this area here. So quite a long way that it's gone already. Right, I'm going to turn around because, like I say, I'm going to actually before I turn around, I just want to check quickly in front here. There's an area called Gowrie Cutline. Now, there are gremlins that live around here, so I don't want to go too far, but I do just want to check. There's a road that intersects back from Buffelshoek here, and so maybe, just maybe, the Inuma Pride might have just turned and come back this way. I heard that the guys have got tracks for the Torchwood Pride in the north, and they also heard the Torchwood Pride calling, and I was quite surprised to see now that the Inkahumas have pushed north, because I would have thought if they had heard them, they might have decided to turn and come back our way. So I'm a little bit surprised that they've moved that side, and maybe that calling will have pushed the Inkahumas to come back in this direction. So I'm going to just try and see quickly, and I don't want to go all the way through the dip, because like I say, gremlins be living in this direction here, and these are ones that you want to avoid. They are nasty. They like to kind of jump onto the vehicle and attack the cables and attack the signal, and well, it just becomes a bit of a mess, and so we lose feed, and we don't want to do that this morning, given that we are the only ones out and about. So we're going to try and avoid there as much as possible. Just like I say, I want to make sure that the lions didn't come back from the north on this road. So we'll probably do just a quick turn around here, and then if nothing, back up and to the west we will go. I don't think so, Stef. I don't see any signs already, though. You can see straight in front of us. So while we don't have lions, we do have a beautiful Nyala bull, and you can see the oxpeckers are already hard at work to try and get any sort of No, I'm just listening to the radio. Interesting. I was just listening to the radio there because it's talking about Mvula's carcass and whether or not it's still there, so I was just trying to get an update. But I was saying the ox pickers are already busy at work cleaning this Nyala, so it's almost like he's gone to the shower for the morning to get ready for a day out, and getting those ox pickers all sorted and sort of cleaning and getting rid of all the parasites that these Nyalas get by walking through this long grass. Now remember, in long grass there are ticks, and ticks will latch on and try to sort of feed off the blood of this Nyala, and those birds are then able to get on there and feed off those ticks and keep the Nyala nice and clean. And it's pretty amazing, for such a small bird they are so efficient in keeping animals really well groomed. They reckon that one of those birds can eat between 2,000 and 3,000 tick larvae in a day, or up to 1,000 of the adult ticks in a sort of week period, which is crazy if you think about it, and it really can actually keep these guys in good condition. So to be able to eat all of those fully engorged ticks and, well, keep the Nyala looking as healthy as he is quite something. But look at the camouflage as well of this Nyala. You can see when it goes behind a bush, it just disappears. So that dark brown with those white stripes and flecks on the mane really do blend in incredibly well. So there we go, look at that. Now if you were coming along, you wouldn't know at all that there's an animal. If that stays dead still, that camouflage is unbelievable. And they need that because the males often are on their own. They need that darker color where they can spend time in these thickets and really just blend in as well as they do. Very cool indeed. Right, well, no lion tracks crossing here, so we're going to just do a little turn quickly. Nope, no lion tracks here. Now, like I say, they were talking about Mvula, and it seems like he lost his kill. Oopsie. So Jessica, you're wondering what animals, if any, migrate through Juma. Well, in terms of big mammals, not really any. So what we have in the Kruger Park system is that we will have animals with home ranges that don't necessarily migrate, but they do move around in quite big areas. And so things like zebra, wildebeest, buffalo, elephants, that's how they work. They'll kind of go in and then out, and so they move around through Juma and then into the Kruger Park. They're not really migrating, but they are sort of moving around within a very large home range area. But in terms of migration, most of that happens in the summer months, and it will be birds more than anything else. There is the odd insect that does migrate, but generally it's the birds that do it. And so we've got quite a number of bird species that come from North Africa, Europe, Central Africa, all the way down into South Africa for the summer months to take advantage of, one, the warmer conditions, but two, it's normally a real big increase in seeds in the grass and food in terms of insects. And so they come in here for food, they then breed in this area, a lot of them, and then they go back again when it comes into the winter and most of that food disappears. So those are normally the migratory animals that we get through here. Generally not too many in terms of mammals. In fact, I don't know of any migratory mammals that move into and through Juma at any stage. I can tell you though, it's quite nice to have that sun. It is absolutely beautiful this morning. The grass is that gold color, and the trees are just starting to get lit up by the sun itself, as you can see as we go along, and it's going to be a beautiful morning. Unfortunately, it's a little bit windy, which is not ideal, so hopefully that will just calm down. Although, as they say in the saying, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. And well, we did have a red sky this morning, so maybe we're in for a little cold front that's about to blow in from the Cape. Now in South Africa, what we get is we get a situation where the Cape area is a low pressure system, and then we get a high pressure system that sits over the Kalahari in the central parts of South Africa. And much like the sun in the winter, that shifts up and allows those low pressure systems to sweep across the country. And so Cape Town gets a lot of rain in the winter, and we get the tail fringe of that, which is generally very cold, windy weather that comes as that low pressure system sweeps over and through the sort of South African side. I wonder if we can see any lions from up here, Seb. The problem with this area is you can't actually see to the dam itself. The dam's in a little depression, but this is where the lions kind of crossed in. I know they spend a lot of time around Tambuti Dam, so it wouldn't surprise me if they are in that area. I'm hoping they found something to eat, because yesterday they were looking like they could do with a meal, and definitely hope that there's some sort of food on the horizon for the Nkuma Pride, and maybe it was them that stole Mvula's kill, because the guys are saying that there's a drag mark of where the carcass was dragged, and so I wonder if that's not from Mvula's kill being either dropped and then stolen by hyenas, or that the lions went there and actually took it from him, which will be a bit sad. Poor Mvula, every time he seems to have a carcass in this area, it seems to get stolen from him. He's had a Tingana steal his last Impala that we had on Gallagher Shortcuts. Now he's got one just north of Gallagher Shortcuts, and well, it seems that that's been stolen too. So it seems like poor Mvula gets a bit of a beating every time he comes near that area. But I wonder if he'll still be around. So Sarah, you're wondering what happened to Mvula, so there we go. Well, I'm going to try and go and just see if there's any tracks for him himself. You never know, he might still be lurking in the area and we might be able to find him, and also just decode exactly what the situation is, whether it was hyenas or whether it was the lions. I would imagine it would have been hyenas, because the lions sort of track takes them away from where he was. He's up on this ridge over here, and the lions cross just behind me, going in a more northeasterly direction as opposed to west, but he would have been just on the top there somewhere. And so I'm pretty sure that unless the lions went to the dam and then tracked west, I'm pretty sure that it was hyenas, and he maybe just dropped the kill. We also know Tingana is a bit of a naughty boy, because he keeps also harassing Mvula and taking his kill, and well, Tingana was around yesterday, and I was actually thinking yesterday when we found Tingana in the afternoon that poor Mvula, every time he shows up with a kill, it seems Tingana is not far away and heading in that direction. So hopefully it wasn't Tingana that stole his kill. Maybe Mvula just decided to move it. Maybe he saw the lions from far off and thought, well, let me drag this quickly and get it out of the way and get it out of sort of visibility of them, and that could also be a possibility. But I would be surprised if he did do that, because anytime you drag a carcass, I just thought I saw some lion tracks here on the right. The problem is that the lions walked everywhere yesterday, so I think these are tracks from yesterday. But anytime you drag a carcass, you're going to end up with a situation where you're going to have, yes, well, there's lots of hyena tracks. So you can see here is the 2 track that went towards where Mvula was, and his carcass was up in one of those trees over there, and there's lots of hyena tracks here. And so I think, unfortunately, the hyenas must have grabbed it and taken it away from him, and he's been left with nothing. Shame. Poor Mvula. It's a hard life being a nomadic male these days. But there's definitely no sign of any carcass still in that tree, and well, no leopard either. No. Now I do apologize if every now and then I do sniff. It's unfortunately a little bit on the chilly side, and well, there's no time to really blow our noses off air, so it might be a sniff every now and then, and it's unfortunately just how it's going to be this morning until such time as somebody else is around. That's how, and the sun gets up and gets a bit warmer, we're going to be a little bit on the chilly side, which means the nose tends to run a little bit. I blame the English blood, so that's, I'll have to say thanks to my mother for that one. It's the cold red nose, and well, then the sniffing that starts after that. Come on, Mvula, be somewhere here where we can see you. I'm also just trying to see if there's any tracks for him. So, Daniel, you want to know who Mvula is related to? Well, Daniel, Mvula comes from a different part of the reserve, so he's not related to any of the the leopards that we know in this area. So he's not from Karula or Shadow or Salesh or any of them. He's from a female called the outcrop female, which used to hang around Lion Sands, the northern part of Lion Sands, and into Sabi a little bit, and that's where he kind of spent most of his childhood. He did grow up with a brother, and I think the brother was known as the Leadwood male. I can't remember correctly. Ali will correct me a little bit later, because she did all the ID kits for the leopards down there. and he then came up into this area and started to settle around 2010 here, and that's where he kind of started to stay. Now, in terms of his father, no one's 100% sure, but they think Tombela could be his father, so that was a big male down in the south as well. But it's a long time ago. Poor Mvula is now, like I say, getting a little bit older and a bit longer in the tooth, and so it is no wonder that unfortunately he's being robbed every now and then. I'm just trying to check on tracks, lots of hyena tracks going up and down, and well, I'm not surprised because there was a carcass there and they do often find it, but it seems he must have dropped it or finished it and they then took the rest away. But there's no tracks for him coming onto the boundary like I thought there would be. I thought he would have come on and sort of walked, but maybe he's also headed for water, which means he could have gone towards Sydney's dam or towards Tambueti Dam, one of the two of them, and tried to go and find water there. It's quite a common thing after you've seen lion or leopard on a kill. They will start to then move into those areas and try and get water after they've fed. Right, Seb, I think the Royal Cubs is where we're going to have to go. So Nitty GV, I think it is. You're wondering if any of the animals hibernate during our winter? No. So hibernation is generally during a cold, wet period, and that's what we don't have here. Our time is that it's cold, but it's just that it becomes very, very dry and devoid of a lot of food items. So there's just a car that passed us there quickly. And that means that our animals here estivate. So estivation is generally in a dry period. It's in a dry period. It's when there is no water or anything like that that is around, that animals will then start to estivate. And so probably the easiest example of that would be estivation of chameleons. Chameleons are the ones that I would probably say estivate the most in this area. Also tortoises, and we know that we don't see many of the tortoises in our winter months. Now Seb, can you just try and punch in a little bit just onto the road on the right hand side here? It's going to be quite difficult to see, but it's probably better than me pulling up alongside it.
Where exactly?
Just on the right of the road. There's these lines, so you don't have to go too tight, just a little bit more to the right. So you can see there on the road on the right hand side there's two lines and a series of footprints that are kind of going along. So there they are there, and those basically are from what we were talking about, the drag mark. So that's where a hyena has picked up that carcass from Mvula and has been carrying it just a little bit to the right. There you can just see those tracks in the sand there, and those basically what's happened is the legs of that impala, or I think it was a warthog. Was it a warthog, Seb? Do you know?
Warthog, yeah.
Warthog. So the legs of that warthog have been dragged along as the hyena has been carrying it. Now, interestingly enough, we know that hyenas often take their food to a den if they haven't finished it, and well, this drag mark is going where? Straight into Manyaleti. So that might just tell us where our hyenas are currently denning. So we've been battling to find their den site, but this might be an indication that they've now tracked into Manyaleti, that potentially they are actually denning up this side. But it's definitely hyena tracks that stole that carcass, and given on the fact that they've moved so far with it, would be an indication that, well, it was them. Things like leopard and hyena and lions, won't drag their carcasses nearly as much. They'll just take it a short distance and then feed on it. Let's check Sydney's dam quickly and see if there is not anything in this area. Such a beautiful dam in the morning. The sun kind of hits this area and it gets this orangish glow that develops, and so it's really very pleasant just to stop and have a little scan around. There's also often very exciting things that happen at Sydney's dam. See the dogs often coming down this way, and the lions spend time here, and well, Mvula's been here a lot, and Ali had Inchila here the other day as well. So it's always nice just to scan around and look at that beautiful golden light that's just coming across the water and onto the banks. Very, very cool. But alas, no animals by the looks of it. Seb, you see anything? No, me neither. Right. Let's carry on, Seb. Let's try and head down to where the two royals were left last night. See if we can't find any signs of them. It should be not too difficult because all the roads around there were dragged with tires yesterday, which means that if they have walked, well, they can't confuse their tracks with any other tracks because there was no other tracks that would have been evident on those roads. So we're going to try and head down that way and see. Hopefully the gremlins will stay away as we go through this little dip, because this is another one of the gremlin hangouts that we're in. Now, for those of you that are wondering how Byron is doing, I actually spoke to Byron yesterday, and well, he was typical Byron and full of nonsense and full of beans, and apparently his rugby game on Saturday went very well. So a lot of you might have heard that he went and played rugby on Saturday because, well, Byron's a big rugby fan, and he watched the rugby first and then played a game, and as he says to me, well, we won, I'm still a machine. That was his exact words. And so Biceps Byron obviously was flexing his muscles and sorting out all of the others and making sure that they won. So he's doing very well and says hello to all of you, and he won't be, actually not too long now, and he'll be back, Seb. We'll soon see Byron gracing our screens again next month. It's crazy to think that we're already halfway through the year and we're about to go into July. It's really kind of flown past this year, and oh no, that's sad. There was a little squirrel that was sitting having some sunshine on the signpost here, and it was quite cool just seeing him like cuddled up in a little ball waiting for the sun to warm him up, but alas, our squirrel ran away. And that's what squirrels do, really. Squirrels love to try and get away and be off camera. They're not as camera craving as what some of our leopards are, that's for sure. But no tracks for the Angama Pride coming west, which means that they must still be in the north. So I would imagine they must be somewhere around Tamboti Dam, because, well, there's no other tracks that I can see. What is interesting is this morning is it's been quite quiet on the bird front. I would have thought we would have had quite a few birds out with the sunshine and flying around and kind of sort of sitting in places on trees and having a nice morning of enjoying some sunshine, but it's been a little quiet on that front. And even when we've been switched off, we haven't actually heard too many calls. There's been the odd Cape turtle dove calling, but other than that, it's been a little bit on the quiet side. Now, as I say that, what is that bird that's just flown up there? Looks like maybe a magpie shrike on the right hand side here. Let's see. Where are we going to get a clear view of it? I don't think we are. Seb, how about on this marula on the right hand side there? You can see it. So it is a magpie shrike. You can see a very long tail, and there's another one that's actually just landed on the left branch, which will probably be better, Seb. So the far left hand branch. And there we go. There he is, just up a little bit. There it is. So you can see that long tail, which gave it the name long-tailed shrike back in the day. But as time has gone, it's now been changed to magpie shrike. And that's all just to do with its coloration. So white and black is the colors of magpie, and that's why they have been given that name. They really are a beautiful bird, though. You often see them in small groupings together, and when you've got a bit of sun on them, even though they are jet black and their white is sometimes a little sort of dirty, their actual black feathers in nice sunshine will glisten, and they get almost a shine to them, and they really are very pretty. And then that long tail that comes down, and like I say, normally in groups together, so there's normally lots of noise associated with them. I really do like those magpie shrikes. They often are in a bird party together. Now there's a starling also in front here, Seb, but I think, have you got something else there? I think it might have flown away, Seb. But there's also hornbills and starlings. There's the hornbill, actually. It's just landed there in the tree itself. There we go. Straight just to the left, up a little bit. There it is. So you can see our red-billed hornbill that's sitting on the tree, all puffed up. So that was what I was expecting to see this morning from a lot of our birds, is to be all puffed up on a branch and, well, watching the sun rise and staying nice and warm. But it seems like that's not the case. I think a lot of them are hiding out because of the wind. But it's this little grouping has obviously found some sort of food items, because there's starlings, there's hornbills, there's the magpie shrikes, and they're just bouncing around all at the base of a termite mound here. So they're all kind of sitting and they're just bouncing around and trying to find food and jostle for position with one another. Now, what was that bird that just flew up, Seb? It looked like a brew might be there. Just in this marula up in top here, you see the right hand side of the tree. At the back there's a bird just on the top there. It's bouncing around now. It's the right size for a brew, but I can't see nicely. I don't know what I've done with my binoculars. To the right a little bit. Right up a little bit. There it is. So what are you? No, it's not. It's a white-crested helmet shrike. So it is not a brew. It was the right size, and it's all puffed out, and that's why it looks a little bit different to what they normally do. And also I can't see the rest of them. They generally are in small flocks together, but yet that's just the only one that I've seen. Now I'm going to have to sort of get out of the way fairly shortly. So David, you're saying you're surprised we don't see more raptors. Well, David, we do see them, and I suppose in summer there's a lot more, because we have a lot of our raptors are migratory. So you'll find a situation where, you know, Wahlberg's eagles, steppe eagles, a number of them are very migratory. Oh, this is so nice though with this. I know there's a car that's waiting for us to go, but you see the magpie shrikes are sitting right out in the open now. And there's the hornbill, and the shrikes are down at the bottom of the frame. Just down to the left a little bit. There we go. And look at the color. That's what I was talking about earlier, is how they shine. Now, of course, you would fly away as we find you in the perfect light. Anyway, that's okay, Seb. Let's get out of the way of this car and let them carry on. And so in terms of the raptors, we'll find a situation that a lot of them are migratory. So steppe eagles, steppe buzzards, the Wahlberg's eagles, they tend to come in our summer months, and then in our winter months they leave again. So, you know, in the winter months we don't see nearly as many raptors as we would. We see a lot of the vultures if there's something dead nearby, or if you drive along the riverbed systems where they nest. So not so much here on Juma, but if you go towards the Manyaleti and the Marakeng in the west, lots of vultures nesting that side, and so you see them pretty regularly. And then there is a pair of martial eagles that does nest also on the western side, so they're around Manyaleti down towards the Londolozi boundary. But I was reading a very interesting article about martial eagles and the study that was done in Kruger and the surrounds, and they reckon that there's actually only about 70 breeding pairs of martial eagles. So if you've got a breeding pair to our west, it's not very often that you're going to get another breeding pair right here. I'm pretty sure that the space element for those martial eagles, because of the number of breeding pairs there is, means that there's probably quite a big distance between them. It's not a very high density of birds, and that means that they're going to spend a lot of time kind of in big sections, and that's probably why we don't see too many of them. But we do see brown snake eagles fairly regularly. Yeah, I suppose it's been a little quiet on the birds of prey front. The other thing is that we get a lot of the sort of sparrowhawks that are quite difficult to see. So we see them when we're driving, but they just flush out and then into a bush ahead of us, and quite tough to actually find them again. So there's a lot of those around, but I suppose we should see a few more. Maybe in the summer months. It's just why we kind of think in winter we don't see as many. But I think we've got our first... No, we saw a Nyala earlier, but our beautiful Impalas, and this might be quite nice, say, with a bit of backlight. The Impala's always a good candidate for backlight because they've got that beautiful coloured coat. And let's have a look. How's that, Seb? That's quite nice. So you can see the sun is just coming over now, and here are our beautiful male Impalas. They're just sitting in the open at this stage and, well, taking it easy. This will be the sort of story of a lot of the antelope species, is that they would have been out on these open clearings during the night. Last night was a new moon, and that means that, well, it wasn't a new moon, but it's the moon is at a very, 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 very small phase, and that means very little light. It's quite dark. It's not going to be easy for these guys to see predators, and so, well, got to get into the open spaces to have as much chance of spotting a predator as possible. And that's why they would have moved into these areas, and they would have spent the night here. And now that sun's coming up, they know that the predators are starting to calm down. They also know that they can see a lot better, and so they'll start shifting off these open sections and into the thickets where there'll be shade for the day, and, well, food items that they can get that they've not exhausted from being out on the open plains. Now, these are all young males that we're seeing, so these guys are only about 2 years old, or just over 2 years old, and so not going to be any breeding done by them. We've just come out of the rut, so most of the female impalas should be pregnant now, but we still have this 1 or 2 males that are trying to rut and on the fringes of these herds. And so these guys probably would have been chased out because their horns are starting to develop, but they're not nearly big enough yet to be able to compete. By next year, they'll be starting to compete at the beginning and the end of, at the end of the season, and by the following year, they will be in their prime and be adults that will really be starting to challenge for mating rights. So it's quite a while that they have to wait. It's not like the females. The females are mating within their first breeding cycle, so they go into a 1.5 years old, they go into their first estrus and they're able to breed, whereas the males generally, their first time that they'll mate is normally either 3.5 or 4.5 years old is when they start competing for their first mating season. Now, it's always important to remember that you've got to groom and make sure that everything is brushed nicely before heading to work. Pierre, you say you're loving the sound of the Cape turtle dove in the background. It is very pleasant, isn't it? It's such a bush sound. There's 2 of them actually talking to one another. It's very cool. Doves are often so underappreciated, but they're such a big part of what we do here because they just have that sort of background tone and sound that you forget about, and yet it still reminds you of that you're in the bush and you're in these beautiful places. And it's often one of those birds that's so overlooked because it's not pretty, but they're actually just, a huge part of the experience of being out here. And there it is right there. Actually, we can show you what they look like. Oh, hello, buddy. So Ellie says the binoculars are in her camera bag that are next to me here. I don't know what I did with my ones though. I think I left my ones on Wendy from yesterday afternoon when I was out doing tracking, and I thought I'd left them on Rusty, but I'm not sure. Maybe they're on Wendy. This is what happens when you change vehicles. But there's our dove sitting ever so... What would be a good word to describe our dove? Maybe hashtag Safari Live as a way to describe how our dove is sitting and calling. Yes, you have a beautiful voice. Thank you for that. And yes, now we're going to show you my other side. It's like a runway model. It's now deciding to show which side looks better. My right or my left, my back side, my front side. Which angle do you want? There we go, Seb. You got to tell it which angle you want.
Face, front.
Front. No, you're getting the back. It's decided that it's back over the shoulder look is what's in right now. Very cool. The small things in life is what makes me happy sometimes. Now, there's something on the radio that I need to quickly just try and find out about because it sounds quite exciting. So if you can just bear with me for 2 seconds. Ralph, just confirm those Madasha are mobile towards Cheetah Cut Line. Okay, copy. What's the line up there? Okay, copy. Alright, just put me in the line up there at the back and let me know, keep me updated what goes on. Right, so that's exciting news. It sounds like we have some wild dogs that are running straight towards cheetah cut line. So it's quite far away, and we're going to have to find our sort of lead foot a little bit and give Rusty a bit of a race down towards that area. But that's super exciting because wild dogs are always such fun to follow. The problem is that's these 3 wild dogs, and those 3 are terrors in terms of being able to follow them. The guys are having a very tough time in keeping up with them already, so we're going to try and see if we can't head in that direction, and maybe we get lucky, maybe we don't, but well, it's worth a try, that's for sure. Wild dogs are always a fun way to spend the morning, that's for sure. Oh, sorry, Hornbill, out the way. Seb, are you ready for wild dogs? Ferrari Safari. Well, we would be Ferrari Safari if I can find the right gear, because I put it into 2nd instead of 4th. Now, of course, we really shouldn't be going as quickly as we are, but like I say, with wild dogs, it's at the end of the day, if you don't get there quickly, they're not going to hang around and wait for you. It's not like the cats that are sort of amble around. These guys go crazy and just sort of run everywhere, and so we're going to try and head in that direction. Also, we know that where they're going from there becomes quite difficult because of the fact that those blocks are thick and dense and difficult, and around Mamba and Leadwood and Battalier are not easy areas to follow any animal, let alone wild dogs. So that's why I want to try and get there and try and get them off the cut line if possible. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to try and just work out what's going to be our best route to get there. It sounds like they are heading in a northwesterly direction, so I would imagine up towards Buffelshoek Dam is probably going to be better. Right, so okay, central it is, so dam wall is going to be our best way that we're going to have to go. And that's actually quite good news, because if they're going to go central, hopefully they'll just run straight on central all the way and maybe come all the way to Weirtilla Dam or Gowrie Dam, and then we'll have them nice and out in the open. So that's going to be the hope for it. It's always quite fun when you do these things, except that it's cold in the morning, so racing around in the mornings is not a warm experience, but a fun one nonetheless. And the problem with it in the mornings is because it's cold, your eyes for some reason tend to water. So if I look like I'm crying, it's not like I'm sad, I'm just driving quite quickly into the wind, and well, it's causing my eyes to water a little bit. Now Natalie, you say you really hope we see these dogs. Well, me too, Natalie. It's been so long since I've seen wild dogs. I haven't had too many sightings of them since I've been at Safari Live, so I'm really hoping that they're going to stick around for us and we'll be able to see them. Round we go. Seb, no tumber there?
Yeah, exactly where I looked.
So the other day...
No, we will always look there.
Exactly. So Seb and I were just saying the other day we spotted tumber sitting on a little mound over there, and we were just saying that every time we come past, the two of us always just check there to see what's going on. Sounds like we're going to have to get a move on, because these dogs are now starting to head towards cheetah cut line quite quickly. Hold on, Seb. So Holly, you say I must channel my inner race car driver. Don't worry, Holly, I'm well in touch with my inner race car driver. It's something that I've utilized fairly regularly over the last few weeks, and so well in touch with that. And just the problem is I don't want to chase or knock Seb off the back. The problem is these bumps. They are the ones that sort of get our inner race driver not sort of free and open. It holds us back a little bit. Sorry guys. You right there, Seb?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think I'm fine.
Have you got white knuckles, Seb? Right, so it sounds like they're on Central, so it was a good call to take this road, and hopefully they're just heading straight now towards the cut line, and that will just pop out on the road, hopefully in front of us. That's going to be the idea anyway. Now, of course, I'm also trying to just look out for any animals as we go, because this is often the case, is where when you want to be somewhere and you've got to rush to get there, so you'll find a situation where you'll bump into everything along the way. So I'm just having a little look as we're going as well. The best part about channeling inner race drivers with Rusty is that Rusty is the best car to drive a little bit faster, and I say that because not because it goes faster, but just because it sounds more epic. Rusty's got a really sort of guttural vibration and sound to it, and well, it sounds like a performance engine and a performance car a lot more than what Wendy and Jigger do. And so when you go a little bit quicker in Rusty, it always feels like for some reason that you're going a little faster than you actually are, just because of the sound of the car. Now let me just get onto the radio and let the guys know. Oh, seems like lots of elephants have been here as well, which is good news. Definitely come back to those tracks just now and try and track them down. Ralph. Yeah, Ralph, I'm here and just crossing Nyala Road north and south on Central. Do you want me to just stand by here? Now I can just hear Franklin's and Bird's alarm calling a little bit. Now I know this is not for the dogs because they're further up, but what could be causing these guys to be upset? I just want to look into the trees because sometimes they'll do it. But you can hear there's lots of birds calling. I wonder. Might be worth just having. I know we're on a dog mission, but hold on, Seb, 2 seconds. Let's just quickly have a look in here. You never know. Maybe there's something else lurking as well. This is my problem. I'm like a squirrel. I have such squirrel syndrome. I can't help it. I just see things and then I'm like, oh, I want to go there, then I want to go there. So I do apologize. Just give me 2 seconds while I check here. No, see, the Franklins were all in the trees, which normally means that something was here and lurking, because Franklins don't alarm call from trees for nothing. If it's a bird of prey, they go down in underneath the trees to try and stay away and to try and get under there and hide. But when it's a cat or something like that, you'll find that they'll sort of go up into the tree and sit up there and wait. But that's interesting. Okay, nothing that I can immediately see now, so we'll come back to this area just now. What was that on the road, Seb? Did you see something on the road there? No, that's another Franklin over there. Okay, well, we'll come back to that just now. I just thought it would be worth just to have a quick little look. You never know. I know there was at least one leopard seen on the dam cam yesterday and could have very easily have walked this way, so I was just having a quick look. Just watch on the left here, Seb. There's going to be a few branches coming your way. let's just head along a little bit. It sounds like the dogs are somewhere in this area as well. Now, it wouldn't have been for them that those Franklins would have been alarm calling, because it's a little bit too far from where they said they were. Now, of course, we're also just waiting for a space to be available for us, which is where Ralph is right now. So Ralph will be able to tell us exactly where they are. Okay, cool. So Ralph is just telling us that there's a Nyala running behind us, and that would mean that the dogs are somewhere close by. And so maybe that's why our Franklins were actually alarm calling, is because they saw the wild dogs. Let's see. Let's just have a look. Oh, apparently a Nyala came running across. Where are you, dogs? Now you can see what I mean about it being dense and thick here and not easy to see at all. Ooh, this is going to be tough. Sometimes it's also worth just turning off and listening, particularly if they've been hunting and chasing things, because they might have caught something, and when they feed, they're excitable feeders and lots of noise. Nope, nothing that I can hear. Come on, dogs, where are you? I wonder if the Franklins didn't see the dogs. They were just a little bit further than we actually thought, because the guys were saying that they were quite far behind us here when they lost sight of them running in this area, chasing Impalas and Nyalas. Maybe Buffelshoek Dam might be better. They might have chased an Impala towards the dam side. Seb, if you see a wild dog, let me know, because they're somewhere on our right hand side. As I was saying earlier, this is the other problem, is when it's just 3 dogs, they can disappear in seconds. They become very tough to find. Whereas when you've got packs of 12, there's generally one that you can kind of find somewhere in that general vicinity and then go back and they'll take you towards the rest of the pack. But no, seems like... I'm going to go around, Ralph. Just... Okay. Let's just see. So James, you wondering if the pack size for these 3 could potentially increase by them breeding themselves, or will they join with another pack breakaway? Well, wild dog movement is a lot more than what we first sort of gave them credit for. We always thought that, you know, they were quite sort of stuck to a pack and there was a very tight bond and they never left. It's not actually the case. They do move around quite a bit within one another, within these social groupings, and so it's very possible that that breakaway pack can be joined by some young males, young females, and they form a bigger pack together. And most certainly the female, because it's 2 males and a female, the female will come into an estrous cycle and those males will try mate with her, which could then potentially cause a situation where we're going to get her denning and hopefully the pack then expanding. So it does happen, and they can potentially join with other wild dogs and cause a much bigger pack to form, and hopefully that will be the case. I'm really hoping that these 3 do decide to den at some point and that they do mate and we get a situation where this pack grows. It's, you know, it seems like the lowest Sabi split away has been 3 for so long that it would be really nice if they were able to grow a little bit and start to try and sort of get some numbers going and increase the population of wild dogs. Anytime we can get a pack that gets an increased population is a good time. Now I'm just driving along, checking slightly north of them, because when dogs chase, well, they chase in every direction possible, and animals will explode in every direction. So even though a Nyala may have run southwards, they could be chasing an Impala northwards, and they just a bombshell effect that's been caused. So just wanting to make 100% sure by going up this way. Now what I also see is a lion track here as well, and I'm not sure when the last time somebody drove here was, but I'll concentrate on that just now. It looks like a track for one male that walked through here, and well, it could have been a few days ago. I don't think anyone's driven in this area much in the last few days, so very well could be a few days ago. But interesting enough, talking about growing of packs and stuff like that, I'm sure a lot of you will be very interested to know what happened with our Sands pack, and in terms of that female that was pregnant and so swollen and full bellied. Well, it seems that so far she has given birth, and they think that she has 7. That's the most that they've counted, is 7. They're not sure if there's more. She definitely does have 7 so far. They say that the den is in a really tight spot in Ottawa, which is sort of the northern part of Singita on the border of Elephant Plains and Simambili. And it's really not easy to see what's going on there, but they think that there are 7, and so really good news, and hopefully all of those little puppies survive and we end up with the Sands pack growing once more. The other interesting thing about the Sands pack is, some of you may remember I was talking about them sneezing and that it could be potentially a sign for distemper. So that led to a whole sort of situation where the pack was monitored and samples were actually taken. They were tested for distemper, and they were basically looked at by a veterinary team, and it was decided actually that these guys have got something different. They don't actually have distemper. It's not something that is fatal though, but they have a disease that has never been recorded in wild dogs prior to this situation. So really interesting that from us just observing them, that we've been able to lead to a sort of a scientific breakthrough, in that there is these animals that have something that was never previously recorded within the species, in something that we noticed here on Wild Earth. So there we go. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Right, now our marathon run of solo 1 hour by ourselves is starting to come to an end, and so it's time to go all the way across to the Masai Mara and to Brent Leo Smith so he can say good morning with the masses of animals that are in the Masai Mara.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and you would believe that I am this awake after not going to bed all night. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Dangerous Dave on camera, and we've got George, our Askari, sitting behind us. Now, we decided, since we're awake and we're on our way home, well, we're on our way to drop George at home, and then Dave and I are going for a daytime nap at Sala's camp, we'd show you a bit. So we're going to be driving through, because George is also quite tired and would like to get home. So if you have any questions about the Great Migration, now is the time. Hashtag Safari Live. As you can see, there are thousands upon thousands of animals all around us. And I still can't believe I'm this wide awake and happy. And I think what time was the last cup of coffee we had, Dave? About 4 a.m.? 4 a.m. was the last cup of coffee. Now, we got taken on a bit of a wild ride last night by the Purungut Pride and the Notch boys, who we spent a lot of time with, only to have them disappear at about 1 a.m. right onto the top of Lookout Hill. So it was quite incredible that they just vanished. And then this morning we went around and around the hill once it got light looking for them, still no luck. And then we suddenly saw a different section of the Purungut Pride, the ones we were with the last time we did the full night, and they started stalking some zebra, but one of the young males made a hash of it, and then we saw the females again a little later, but no sign of the Notch boys again. So as you can see, as we drive up on these crests, Tanzania's down, that's Tanzania, those mountain ranges in the edge there, and literally all these hills are just covered in wildebeest. Now, of course we're live, you don't know whether around the next corner or over the next hill there might be a lion. Actually, we spent quite a lot of time, George, was it here last night? Yes, it was here. We were down in this very valley in front of us looking for the Silas Pride last night, but they managed to evade us before we went and found the Purungat Pride around Lookout Hill. Now, remember, we are live and we are heading down a slight slope. It should be all grand. We do have, yes, no, we'll be fine. There's a repeater on top of that little hill over there, so I've just got to make sure we're still learning all the areas where we have great signal, good signal, but we do cover the majority of the Mara. Now, who can tell me, I've got a question for you as well. Oh, but we've got a question first from R. Lara Moore, who would like to know, are the herd sizes easier to approach as they get larger? Well, yes, they sort of got nowhere to go. So they are sometimes a bit easier to approach. Now, I am keeping a very careful eye out. I mean, we've been looking for lions all night, but now that the day is up, ooh, see. Now that is something a lion or even a coalition of male cheetahs would take advantage of. Somehow this poor wildebeest next to us has hurt his leg. Now, he's probably not going to make it all the way to the Mara River, so probably about 7 or 8 kilometers directly over behind us. I think the hyenas, the lions or the cheetah will definitely take care of him. And that's how it works out, yeah? So there is a time and place for everything, and now is the time not only for the wildebeest and zebra to feast on all the luscious red oat grass, but it's also a time of plenty for the predators of the Masai Mara. Okay, we've got a little dip coming up ahead, and that will be in a bit of a blind spot, and I'm hoping so. We're going to go down through this blind spot and hopefully you'll be back with us shortly. But while we do that, Stef is with some mountaineering pachyderms.
I definitely am with some mountaineering pachyderms, and a very good morning to you all from the Mara Triangle here in Kenya. Myself and Senzo has just head out, and as you can see on the edge of the Olololo escarpment are some cliff-hanging elephant. Have a look at this. Let's go out a little bit just to show you exactly what I mean. Isn't that incredible? That is the Olololo escarpment. At the top and the head of that valley is where our camp is and the final control. And we'll go in over there. There we go. That's the final control. James's Eyrie. There's our tents. And then if we go left a little bit and out to the point of the escarpment, that is where the world famous Angama Mara Lodge is at the moment. You can see that the elephants are right underneath us. Spent most of the night in the forests. That's what they do out here. This time of the year, the forests are quite nutritious in terms of what they can offer the elephants in terms of food. And they go at night time into the forests. And the reason why they go at night time there is because there's a lot of people that live on top of the escarpments, and elephants are scared of people. So they come up the slopes at night time, into the forests, feed in the forests, and then during the day they come down into the grasslands that you can see stretching out in front of us. And isn't that a beautiful view over the Mara River drainage basin? There in the distance are another group of hills. That's another feature. That is where all the crossings are at the moment. And there we have 300,000 or 400,000 wildebeest that are massing and crossing and recrossing from one side to another all over this area here and behind those hills. That's where Brent is right now. He is on the other side of those hills. A very, very far way from here indeed. And isn't that just the most amazing thing? That green belt of trees that you're having a look at there, that is the Mara River. That is what's left of the forest. It changes this area so much, and it's gone from grassland to forest, back to grassland again, in the process of doing so right now. Now Mita, you're only 8 years old and you've asked me such an awesome question, straight out of the Jungle Book. Have I seen any stampedes since I've been here in the Mara? No, Mita, I haven't seen any stampedes, barring a couple of elephant herds that have been running at me and past me when we're driving past them. They're not as relaxed here as what they are at Juma, all the way down in South Africa in the Kruger National Park. I'm not quite sure why that is at the moment. Some herds seem to be relaxed, others are not so relaxed, but they definitely have stampeded at and past us. Other than that, hippo stampede quite a lot. They don't stampede, I call it rampage more than anything else. They sort of rampage past you back to the river or away from the river. But in terms of buffalo or wildebeest or zebra, we haven't seen any of those stampedes just yet. And I presume you're meaning because they're running away from something big and scary. Here the lions are just starting to realize that the wildebeest are coming all the way from the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania, all the way into the Masai Mara and into this area. And in a few short days, you're going to be seeing all the wildebeest from all the way out there coming to dot this landscape. Now, it's not like this landscape is empty. Just have a look in front of you at all the zebra that you can see. Zaz, you want to know, where do the migration animals go when they've obviously arrived in this area and then depart again? Zaz, we've got two types of animals here in terms of migration, or the theme of migration. We have the resident herds, which is what you're looking at right now. These are all the animals that you're looking at now: the zebra, wildebeest, buffalo, elephant, Thompson's gazelle, eland, and so on and so forth, that live in this valley and will stay here all year round. And then you have your migratory animals, and that is made up of wildebeest primarily, with some zebra and some Thompson's gazelles and a few other animals that tour with them. They're on a circuit, and it's mainly just food-based, between the Masai Mara, which is really good food all year round, and the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania, northern Tanzania, which has really exceptional food for a portion of the year. And these animals move from here all the way through to the Serengeti, which lies in that direction over there, and then come back again when the Serengeti dries up, which it is at the moment. Right, we're going to carry on down this this road. We're going to see what we can find. I'm going to hug this forest that you see here. Ah, there we go. There's a spotted hyena making its way home after a long night on the prowl. And whenever we are ready, we're going to be sending you over to Tristan, 4,000 miles away in South Africa.
Well, still no luck with the dogs. We've gone round in loops and circles and can't find anything at this stage. And this is the problem with these three dogs, is that once we lose them and once you can't keep up with them, they just become so difficult to find again. And well, I'm just hoping that in some way they just pop out in front of us. Franklins are still complaining in the same area, but I don't see any wild dog or fluffy white tails emerging from here. And this was always going to be the worry of them coming this way. That's why I was trying to get there before we got to Cheetah Cut Line, but the reason I couldn't get any faster is because, well, I've got no brakes either. So to kind of compound the situation of racing around with dogs, having no brakes really doesn't help either. So I'm just trying to kind of measure the amount of driving I'm doing in terms of speed. So you have to kind of use the gears now to slow down and use these big bolsters as well. I'd imagine these dogs must be somewhere here. Maybe they made a kill and that's why they haven't come out yet, but it's so dense and thick in here, and there's a big steep drainage that even these little cars are not going to be able to negotiate, and if they've gone in there, we've got no chance to be able to find them. So I'm just hoping that they just pop out somewhere here in front of us. This is the way it goes, unfortunately, is that sometimes your luck will be with you, and yesterday afternoon we were lucky in that everything was out and posing for us, and well, other times you get mornings like this where you've got to try and work a little bit harder and you've got to stay nice and positive and hope that things do come your way, and I'm sure it will eventually pop out. It's just a matter of sort of trying to look. So juniper franklins don't have a specific call for wild dogs. They kind of just alarm call for any predator. There's no specific call. So here's their tracks, and then they ran in, and you can see why the guys couldn't keep up with them. This is what they were dealing with on our left hand side here. Now you try and follow a wild dog through that is almost impossible when they're hunting, so we can't blame the guys for losing them. But this is the last tracks is cutting off into this thicket here, so they must have run further. And I wouldn't be surprised they actually show themselves on the dam cam and sort of appear in that area. So those of you that are watching, watch the dam cam as well. You never know, the dogs might just arrive there. There's a Nyala, so she looks fairly chilled, which means the dogs are no longer here. Where would they go if they don't go to dam cam? We know that they're not at Buffelshoek Dam, so I would imagine Chelapan or Twin Dams would be the other places we'd have to go and check. Now I wonder who the lions are, or the lion track that I found just now. I wonder who that's for as well. So Marissa, are you wondering if the dogs are also territorial, and whether or not, and what would happen if two packs meet? Well, yes, they are territorial, so they mark their territory, they'll urinate, defecate, they run around and kind of scent mark quite a bit, and when two packs meet, it's absolute chaos. Dogs just chase each other in all directions, and I've actually been lucky enough to see two packs run into each other quite a few times. The best one that I ever saw in terms of just sheer chaos was when we had the Manyaleti pack, as it was known back then, which I think is still the Investec pack. I must try and find out. But at that stage they were 30 dogs, and then the Sands pack was 7 dogs. So it was 37 wild dogs, all on Gowrie Main, and they ran into each other there, and it was just absolute pandemonium. And they ended up chasing each other, and there were dogs being found on northern Singita, Londolozi, on Simbambili Elephant Plains, in Koro. Up here they just split into this massive unit of dogs all over the place, and we followed 2 dogs in particular as they ran south towards Hofmann's. And as we followed them along, they went down towards Mala boundary, and they ran into a cheetah female and her cub. And the cheetah female then tried to hunt these 2 dogs, well, not hunt them, but chase them. And we had this epic sighting of one wild dog running across a big open area with a cheetah chasing behind it. And well, in terms of the Sabi Sands, those are 2 of the most endangered predators that we get here. And so to watch that situation was just the most insane thing. So really cool to see, and most definitely the dogs will fight with one another. Now we're going to jump back all the way across to Stef, who said he had spotted a hyena and is now caught up with them. Check the little button.
Isn't it exciting that you can move from the chase of wild dogs over to a chase of a hyena, but at a much, much slower pace? That hyena there is, I'm sure, going to a den that we don't really know the position of inside the forest below where we stay. We hear them so often at night time, right at sunset and right in the mornings. And this is the first time we're watching one of these fantastic creatures, one of my favorite creatures. It ranks in the top 3, the spotted hyena, for me. Returning home after a night's hunting. I'm hoping that we'll be able to follow this particular animal all the way to its den. Here's a Cape buffalo, just busy chewing the cud. These old bull buffalo come up onto the slopes because it's quite rare for lion to come off the plains. And that is exactly why the hyena have their den in this area. It's because it's a lion-free zone. Not to say that lions won't come up these slopes, they absolutely do, but it's rare for them to do so. Much more common for them to hunt on the grass plains, and all the animals know that. And so they come out of the grasslands at night time up onto the short grass plains and spend the nights there. And that is, hyena are well known for building their dens in areas where lions are not. It can be very local, as we've seen at Juma in South Africa. The hyena make their dens when the lions are adjacent by a couple of miles, not much more than that. So it doesn't mean that they're totally absent in this area. I wonder if this hyena is going to be coming out of that valley. And we'll see it go up on the slopes. It's quite a rare thing to find at this distance. I think we're probably going to have to track this hyena to find out where it is. But let's give it some time to come out of the grassland. Senzo, there is a bird with a white chest. We're just trying to see it over there, sitting in the branch. So valley forest, just to the right. There we go. That is an auger buzzard. I know Brent is trying his best to try and keep everyone updated on all the new bird species, but I quite like this bird. It's a fairly robust buzzard, one of the biggest buzzards I've seen, at least anyway. About the size of a steppe buzzard. They live in here. This pair lives here, and quite often in this valley you find them posturing. They will fly in unison with one another at the head of this valley early in the morning. It's a bit windy this morning. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Oh, there we go. Flew off up into the valley. I wonder if it flew away from that hyena. Might have done so. I don't see this hyena coming out of the grassland there. Just going to keep our eye on it. There's some more buffalo and giraffe up on the slopes to the right. You got those black dots there. And here's a giraffe and some more zebra. As you can see, we're very far away from that at the moment. That is easily about half a mile or more away from where we are. David has asked the magic question. Why don't herbivores kill a lone predator? David, that's a good question, because if I was a herd of zebra numbering, 1,000 or 2, I would absolutely try and kill a lion that I found out on my own, or a hyena out on my own. The fact is that they do kill, especially the more aggressive of the herbivores, do kill predators from time to time. It's not uncommon for buffalo to kill hyena pups or cubs. Lion and leopard and cheetah cubs get killed quite often by buffalo. I've watched zebra trample cheetah, trample jackal, and the same with giraffe. But I think what happens is it's a mentality thing. It's probably an aggression thing. It's the same, I suppose, as it's tough to say. Let's take it down some notches to insects. Why don't the multitude of termites just band together and overwhelm their predator completely? Why do they send the little soldiers out there instead of just balling together in a mass, several kilograms or several pounds heavy, and just smother the insects that's preying on them? It's, I suppose, just an attitude thing. It's quite difficult to say at the moment, but it's the reason why you wouldn't naturally consider, I suppose, just tackling a lion. I suppose the Masai do it. I don't really know how to answer that question, David. It's just like a food chain thing. Let's just leave it at that, I suppose. Time for more discussion a bit later on. In the meantime, I'm sure Tristan wants to give you an update on that search for those wild dog.
Well, unfortunately, still no sign of the wild dogs. It seems that they've kind of lost and everybody's driving around and no further sign of them. They might be inside one of those thickets, and well, unfortunately we'll just have to wait and try and see if they don't just appear somewhere. I'm hoping that they're going to come to one of the dams, and well, if we don't get them on the drive, hopefully they'll appear at Gari Dam on the dam cam, and you guys will at least get to see them somewhere. Now, it sounds like the Nkuhumas have also crossed into Manyeleti as well as the Torchwood Pride, so it seems as though there was a party in Manyeleti last night as well, and that's where everybody's gone. But no sign of the dogs down here. I thought they might just arrive down this side, but it seems not. Well, it's okay. It's the way it goes. And like I say, I was a bit stressed about those dogs to start with, because the 3 of them are notorious for doing this, is that they get your hopes up, and as you're about to go to where they are, gone, and they move off and they end up in a different place. So they're one of those sort of packs that is almost impossible, and you've got to just be right time, right place. And well, this morning wasn't the right time or the right place, and that's just the way it goes. Alright, I think what we might need to do now is really start focusing our intention and our sort of attention on trying to find Hasana and Shongile. We were going to do that from the beginning, and we've been putting it off, and I think now's the time to really kind of have a proper look around and just try and see if we can't find one of the two of them. They hopefully will still be somewhere in those areas. Right, now while I try and sort of focus my attention and try and see if I can't find something that we've been looking for this morning, well, let's go across to Brent, who has got more than he can handle driving through herds and herds of wildebeest and zebra.
Well, as you can see, when you left me, I was driving through wildebeest and zebra, and I'm still driving through wildebeest and zebra, probably about 5 kilometers later. Now, I'm going to get David to pan, or let's have a look where. Let me slow down a little bit to the left here, and just show you how many there are, and there just truly are masses upon masses of them. Now, the reason is we're not stopping and taking our time as we might normally do, is that we are trying to get poor George back home. He's also been out all night with us, and it gets quite cold. And David, you show them the latest addition to our all-night kit. Oh yeah, so I decided, there we go, that is the latest addition to the all-night kit, a foam mattress. The first night I slept on this big steel box when we dozed, and I decided no, that was just too ghastly and uncivilized. So I went into the village of Kauai early yesterday morning and procured 3 of those mattresses for the vehicles that stay out all night. And I must say, lying there and reading while you wait for the lions to do something is very comfortable. Now you can see it's quite a strong wind today. Hi Roshni. Roshni's wondering why on earth would the wildebeest, zebra and Thompson's gazelle and the old eland that migrate move back south towards the Serengeti when the food source is good all year in the Mara. The food source is great all year in the Mara, but it can't withhold this number of, whoopsie, nearly lost my hat, this number of wildebeest and zebra and other game. So that's why when they deplete the resources here, there's still enough for the local populations to survive. But even the local wildebeest population migrate north into the conservancies. So there is enough for the local populations to survive, but it's not nearly enough for them to survive, or for the whole migration to survive all year. Hello news. Yes, coming through. Pardon us. Now the one thing that we get while we're around the mass migration is that we get a very nice dust tan, some sand between the teeth, as they do stir up quite a bit of dust even in this long luscious grass. Oh, there's a single eland jogging away. Let's see. I think they're going to be quite nervous in this wind. I'll see if they will stop. Hello, yes, mister. Yes, this is can may I pass, please? Thank you. I'm going to see if we can get a nice shot of this eland in the long grass. Well, that eland is not stopping, so we're going to have to do a quick view before it disappears over the hill. Bye, eland! Now, of course, my good friend Tristan is in search of my favorite animal, the African wild dog, and a lot of people are wondering, do you get them in Kenya? Indeed you do. And in this area, unfortunately, there are not too many around. Their population was very hard hit by distemper and rabies in the last the last 20 or 30 years. But up further north in Laikipia, there's a very healthy wild dog population there. I'm going to ask George quickly. George, no, Mbamwit. Malima Mbili. Mara Mbili. So there we go, there's only George, anafanya kazi mara saba.
I saw twice.
Yes. And how long have you been working here, George?
7 years.
Yes, sir. There we go. George has only seen them twice.
They come and go.
There we go, they come and go. But George has only seen them twice in 7 years of being a ranger in the Masai Mara. Now, you must remember, George and his guys, they cover an incredible amount of ground, both in vehicle and on foot. And this particular area is quite an important area. There are a lot of the remaining black rhino in this area. So there's a very heavy ranger presence in this area. Oh, it looks like we're getting to the end. Of the last of a couple of wildebeest, but as I've learnt, that the thing that amazes me most is you can see here, there's 5 or 6 wildebeest in front of us, sea of grass, no wildebeest, but you just go over the next hill and there could be 100,000. Now, we're talking about important areas. As I said, this is an important area for black rhino in Kenya, but another very important area for all of us at Safari Live is, of course, Juma.